You're listening to the Current Plays Podcast, Season 3, Episode 34, Revenant. Now please welcome your hosts, Jordan and Thomas. And welcome back, voyaging listeners. This week we are talking about Revenant, I'm going to say sequel to Voidfall. This is designed by Alan Kirkby, published by Mindclash Games, with art by the one, the only Ian O'Toole. And this game is 1 to 4 players with a BGG weight rating of 3.95.
Yeah. I mean there's one that I can agree with.
Agree
I
with, yeah.
suppose. Yeah.
Yep. So I had to look it up, the difference between Revenant and Voidfall. And Voidfall has a weight rating of 4.62.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
What? I would say that Voidfall is a little heavier, a little weightier than this one. So it doesn't surprise me it's higher.
Yeah.
4.62 out of 5. Yeah, I mean I can see it. That
I
one
can
is
see it.
it's a mental load, that one. And there's feelings of that in this one as well.
Yes.
Which I'm sure we'll touch on, but yeah.
Yeah. So this game it's set in the Voidfall universe and uses like the same great houses. If you know anything about Voidfall, there's a bit of a like political back and forth going on in the game, right? Not like a TI or anything like that, but um, so thematically, this game is the plot to Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, very much
So
so.
the Revenant is like a seed ship that is basically carrying mankind away, trying to get away from the Voidborn after the Voidfall incident, right? And you are playing like a crew in these frigates that are part of this armada of ships that are trying to protect the Revenant as as it tries to make its escape. But it's not all peaches and cream and cooperation, right? So basically, you're trying to every great house is essentially trying to maneuver themselves during this exodus to become, the leader once everybody gets to whatever destination they happen to find out there in the cosmos. And so you and your crew are trying to earn influence with the right houses so that you're basically in a good position when you get to wherever you're going, if you make it there, right? It's like the theme is so tasty.
Yeah.
I love it, and it really comes out in the gameplay too.
Yeah. And to touch on that Battlestar Galactica, right? Like, so the first episode of Battlestar Galactica, if you have seen it or if you haven't, I'm going to spoil it. But I mean, the show was like 20 years old at this point, if not more.
Yeah.
So humankind is on their ships and they're being chased by the Cylons, and then they're constantly like warping, into like deep space, trying to get away from these Cylons, right? And the whole like first episode is just essentially them warping and then kind of like holding their breath. Okay, are they going to find us? Are they going to? Oh, they're back, and we can't warp for X amount of time. We got to build up the charge, and then we got to warp again, and then hopefully we can lose them and whatever, right? And so this game, yeah, with the Revenant ship that you're protecting in the center, you're you will get overrun. Like, it's not a
Yeah.
question of can you fight it all off? No, that's not going to happen. You could get do a decent job of it, but you're going to get overrun, right? So to kind of like get away from that, you have to warp your ship, the
Yep.
Revenant ship, ahead into, deep space somewhere else, right? And then sure enough, as soon as you warp, the Voidborn start to like pour back in, and it starts to get out of hand again, and you're like, okay, do we warp again?
Yeah.
You got to really plan that out. Now you only have 4 rounds. So I think in our game we only actually warped once.
Yeah.
And then we decided not to warp again after that because by that time, by like the third round, we had some decent combat abilities for some of our ships that we were able to kind of like manage, or at least
Yeah.
manage in a way that the ships died that we wanted to die. And that goes into your point about this being, the houses vying for control, right?
Yep.
So, and those houses take the point of like, if we don't play as specific houses, but we have maybe more influence in a house. So if that house does
Oh.
better, we'll score more points, right? So
Yeah.
if I know you have heavy influence in one house and I don't, I'm okay if the void
Born.
born destroy that house's ships, right? Because that's just hurting your points. And it's a fascinating mechanism in that sense.
Yeah.
To watch that play out and then really, get to experience that overwhelming numbers and warp spacing, warp driving away and trying to survive another day kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So why don't I quickly go over how the game is played?
Yeah.
You've got a board with 8 sectors on it around the outside, and then there's actually like some mini sectors in the middle, but they don't really come into play so much. But basically, the Revenant is sitting in the middle of the board, and then you've got all the house ships are all around it, and then each player has their own little frigate. So each ship is an action space, and this is a worker placement game. So you have 3 workers, you have 2 crew members, and a captain. And the captain has like special abilities. And then the crew members you can upgrade with special abilities throughout the game, as well as your frigate you can upgrade with abilities. But other than that, you've got these big ships called arc ships, and they have the main actions on them. So every house's arc ship has different actions, and they're a wide variety of things, like from actually like removing voidborn ships, so like blowing up voidborn ships, putting out shields, getting resources, exchanging resources, taking off corruption, stuff like that. Then you've got fighters, which are what you would think. If you go on a fighter space, you get to move it and do damage to the Voidborn. Then you've got drop ships, and these are basically used to land on these planets, which are represented by cards. And you go to the planets. It's usually to get resources, is what the planets give you. And then you've got your frigates, which can act like the fighters or be used like a drop ship. So they can go out to damage or they can land on a planet. And as the game progresses, yeah, you've got Voidborn that start on the board all around in these 8 sectors. And then you have rifts where more Voidborn are going to appear, at the beginning of every round. So and there's always going to be, like Thomas said, more Voidborn generated than you can possibly deal damage back to. So it's all a matter of, you know, timing. Like, how much damage can we do to them this turn, or how much damage can we prevent? And then once it gets overwhelming, yeah, you need to take an action on the Revenant to charge up the hyperdrive or whatever it's called, so that you can warp away and you jump to a different sector. And then that's represented by you take off all the rifts and all the voidborn, but your ships, stay where they are and they keep the damage that's on them. And you basically, whoever uses the hyperdrive picks a different card with a different setup on it. And you're going to set up the rifts again, set up the new voidborn, and each round that goes on, those setups are more difficult, right? There's more Voidborn on the board um, to deal damage back. And so with your three workers, you're going to go out onto these ships, do the action, and then you gain influence with the ship that or the I should say you gain influence with the house whose ship that you used. And then once you've done your three actions for the round, then the Voidborn are going to attack, deal damage to ships. And if they, destroy a house ship, that house ship loses power, which means that your influence isn't worth as much at the end of the game. And you go through four rounds like this, and at the end of the game, you're going to look at the influence you have in each house and then what that house's power is at the end. And it's going to
Yeah.
be somewhere from 0 to 4. And then you multiply. So you multiply your influence by the power. And that's the main way to score points. So like Thomas was saying before, oh well, if your opponent is like really high on one house ship, and you're like, okay, well, I don't mind if that house ship gets blown up, but
Yeah.
it might also like have a good action spot on it, so maybe you do mind. So, but then maybe you try to get rid of one of the fighters or one of the drop ships. So it's this awesome little back and forth there of everybody wants to cooperate to protect the Revenant, because if that gets damaged, really bad things happen to everybody. Um, but you also kind of want to protect your own ships while not protecting your opponent's ship. Like they're not your ships, but the
Yeah.
houses that you're betting on, while not protecting the houses that your opponent's betting on. So yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like rules wise and going through it is pretty easy, but there are actually a lot of like little rules that I think still didn't get everything right by the end of the game.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And there was a few things like, we didn't know how like certain interactions would happen, but it happened at the end of the game. And then
Yeah.
it was kind of like, well, either way, it's not going to make a difference. So we don't really have to look. But in certain situations, if that came up, it would make a difference, right? But in our case, it hadn't. So
Yeah.
we were just like, okay, we can figure that out another time or something, right?
Well, and
Um,
at the end of the game, because you can't jump away to another sector because there's no other round, you instead you pull out these colony cards, and they're used for like another end game scoring objective,
mhm.
except they don't really explain it in the rule book, and we had to go to the forum, the BGG forums, to figure it out.
Yeah, yeah. And then at that point, we learned that like, oh, you actually have to take an action for those to be included, kind of
Right.
thing, right? So like we had these, but then we didn't activate. You can activate one of the three. We didn't activate it because we didn't realize that was a thing.
Yeah.
So that whole scoring thing just didn't exist, right? It was
And
just
I
like,
don't
oh,
know
no,
if
we
you
just dropped that
noticed,
off. Yeah.
but I
Oh,
took
oh,
action
yeah,
specifically to like load up on science because that was one of the things. And then
100%.
it was like,
Yeah.
oh, well, we don't even score it. So
I
great.
I kept a couple science left over and I threw down a bunch of ship upgrades
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the and so did you. You put a bunch of ship upgrades down too, right? So and then yeah, it was like, oh, well, that did nothing.
Yeah.
Those were
Yeah.
supposed to be like, turns where it was like, okay, this is 1 point, this is 1 point, this is 1 point, right? And then it was just like, oh, I did really technically nothing. But because we both got burned by it, by not having any of that, then it didn't really matter, right?
So if
Um,
if you're listening to this, and you're like, how do the colony cards work? So at the end of the third round or the third cycle, whatever they call it, you're going to flip up the top three colony cards, and then it works like the I can't remember what the other ones are called, sector cards or something.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Scanner cards. There you go. Where you have to take an action on the Revenant and charge up the hyperdrive. And I guess this is represented by that's the colony or the planet or whatever that you are finally warping to
Yeah.
get away
Yeah.
from the Voidborn. So,
Which is super interesting, right?
yeah.
And I think this is where it comes. That here's my only gripes with this game. I had a great time, and I would love to play this again. And I think it would benefit from many plays, and I think we would have some crazy like plays of this game where like crazy things happen. Because even this one player, like first play of this. Like if it's one of those games that you would have memories of playing this and the crazy things that happened, right? Because it felt like,
Yeah.
yeah, these Voidborn were coming in and you're trying to survive, right? It
Yeah.
really felt like that. And then like you're trying to, you know, sabotage things and do the, in all these shows when you got the human race, there's always the backstabbing guys that are trying to get. I was doing that, first round turned up and like I manipulated the board to bomb a bunch of your ships, right? So it's like I turned on the human race to make sure that I would be, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but those are the like that's the cool thing. So my gripe is so those three cards come up and it's random what cards you get. So the three planet cards come up. And in our situation, the three came up, and all three of them, actually, two of them were ones that we, one was one we like both ignored completely. So like planet wise, so the faction, essentially what happens is these planets, if you activate it, which we never did anyways, it bumps up the multiplier on that faction, right?
Yeah.
So the three that came up absolutely would not have helped me at all. So it was like, oh, okay. If we activate any of these, and of
Yeah.
course, and again, we didn't quite know how it worked anyways. So we didn't realize till the end of game that, oh, it's a multiplier as well, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so like that would have just like crushed me even more.
Okay, but what's interesting is it's a deck of something like seven cards or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And again, you're flipping the top three, right? But um I took an action at one point
Ooh, to
that let
look
me
at it.
look at that deck
So you
and go
set that.
through and pick two and get rid of them.
Okay.
So now it doesn't let you stack it because then you got to like shuffle it. And so you still what comes out is random, but
Yeah.
there are actions that let you manipulate what cards.
So in that case, I take that great back because that absolutely, if you manipulated that to have, from a degree,
Yeah.
right? Like you couldn't fully, but maybe one of the planets that I had high influence, you just
Yeah.
went, yeah, no,
One of them
that's
was
coming out.
Dunlork, and I'm like, I
Yep.
had nothing in that, and that was your like primary influence
Okay.
house,
So
and I got rid of that
100%,
card.
I forgot that happened, but I would 100% take that out. But this leads into my other gripe is the hidden
Yeah.
influence. And this one I got hosed on, right? So
This won me
you
the game.
you get these cards that essentially is like you draw it and it's a secret influence in one of the houses, right? So and you collect a bunch of like you collect what at least one.
I think I had like eight or nine
Yeah, yeah.
by the end of the
Because
game.
so your minimum are gonna have four, like one per round you draw. But then anytime you collect three data cubes, you'll get one, or remove three corruption pieces from your board, you'll get another one. So you have access to potentially a decent amount of them. How many you had?
Hmm.
Nine?
I
Yeah.
think I had about nine at the end of
Yeah,
the
and
game.
I think I had like seven or eight. I think I had eight, and I maybe gave away the ninth one, right?
Yeah.
So and I made a conscious decision. I took the ninth one and I traded in for resources during the game, right? But here's the thing. So you can it I'd like that there's a mitigation factor to it. So when you start off, depending on how upgraded your captain is. So you start off with your captain. You're going to draw one of these cards, and you get what you get, right? As you upgrade your captain, you draw multiples of those cards, and then you get to keep one. So that's your mitigation, where like you
Yes.
draw extra, and then you only get to keep one, but you can be like, yeah, okay, I want this one. I drew nothing the entire game. I quickly upgraded. I upgraded my captain like really fast because it was one of my secret goals at the end. So that was like I knew I wanted to do that. So I had upgraded. So I was drawing four cards at once and picking one. And the amount of times I would draw four, and they'd be all the offsuits that I had zero influence in. And
Yeah.
there was like
Yeah.
some, like I was like fifth, sixth position of influence on a couple of the tracks there. And I could not draw one of those cards in four. Like I never saw a yellow card, and I only saw a green card, which are the two tracks that was far up. I only saw one green card the entire time out of I must have pulled 20 cards out of that deck and only saw two. No, no, only saw one in the green,
Yeah.
and none in the yellow, right? So like at the end of the game, we're showing these cards, and you had three in the green. So okay, that makes sense why I didn't see a lot of green. You were pulling them,
Also,
right?
also, because we were playing two player, we took 12 cards out of that deck,
Oh, interesting.
right, for the
Yeah.
dummy player, and the dummy player had a lot of green cards.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
never thought of that too. Yeah. So like, yeah, you had some green. Dummy player had green. Dummy player, I think, had some yellow as well. And then
Screwed
yeah.
you right over.
Oh, just completely. Like, so you flip over yours, and you had three in the green, which
Yeah.
were essentially 4 points each, and three in the red, which were 3 points each. And I was like, wow, just like, and then the other ones were, points or whatever. One was like a two each and whatever, right? So you got a decent
Yeah.
amount of points there, but like those were two high color ones. I had my green card that was 4 points, and then I maybe had like three more points amongst
All
the
the
eight
rest of the
cards that
cards.
I had.
Yeah.
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 So yeah. So it was like a huge point gap right out of the gate when you're calculating influence was the first thing you calculate. And
Yeah.
I was just like, oh man, like,
See, I loved it
oh
because the whole game I'm like, well, what cards do I keep when I draw them, right?
yeah.
And so you're going up high on the yellows. I didn't see any yellows. Um, but I'd kind of had my eye on the green, and then you were because the green has like some good abilities on it, although I
Yeah.
don't think I actually got to use them the whole game because like I said, the dummy player kept going there.
Yep. Yep.
Um, but so you were going up on the green, and so you were protecting those ships. And I thought to myself, you know what? Like, I'm gonna start keeping these green ones. And then I kept back on that track. I got like a couple of points on that track,
Yeah.
but nothing to like make you suspicious. So that like you then were protecting those green ones and got that up to four. And then when I flipped my three influence cards, it like brought me up to almost as high as you were. So we
Yeah.
scored like similar points on that track.
And that's the thing. Like I had to go up on the track because that's where I was scoring my points. Like I ended up
Yeah.
scoring a ton of points for being up. Like my yellow track and my green track scored me huge points just because I was far up them, and they were, yeah, frustratingly. The green was four, and the yellow on the last turn
Last
flipped to
turn, yeah.
two,
Oh
right?
man.
And I just couldn't save it all.
Yep.
Um, Yeah, yeah. But yeah, so that was like there was those two tracks that I like hammered and like scored huge on. But then the other ones, like, I didn't move on them or were and part of the reason I didn't move on a few of them is the red was I got outplayed on the red big time. Like you moved up high in the red track, right? And
Mm.
I tried to blow up all the red tracks or red ships, and I got very close. They were all like almost max damage.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I just needed like one and then like two damage on the arc ship or whatever, right? So like if they were all ready to go and you warped us and all the red ships were in like safe zones. And I was like,
Yep. I
and for the rest of
so
the game, I could not force damage there. Yeah.
I warped us. Like I was the one who activated the hyperdrive, so I got to choose the card, and not completely, but like cards or the ships that you were working on were kind of all on one side of the board, and then ships that I liked were kind of on the other side of the board. And then the way this card happened, all the rifts were on your side. And so yeah, so I'm like, yep, that looks good. Moved there, and like, yeah, so all my ships were kind of in safe zones. Now,
Yeah.
not 100% safe, obviously, but I'll tell you my secret. I really like the red because they're the ones that have the ability to take Voidborn off of the board.
Yes,
So
they are.
it's easy to go there, move up on that track, and then take care of the Voidborn that are threatening those ships. So,
And this is what was interesting too, because first turn we played, and we went over the rules, and you were like, okay, like we have to cooperate, right? Like we got to do some things to keep. And I was like, oh yeah, of
totally.
course, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then straight away was super selfish. Like I went straight to the selfish. You were removing void born, and I was just like, no, no, no. I'm working on my own board here. But I don't care. They can destroy whatever. That's fine, right? And then in my last turn, so you were first. So I don't know if it was first round or second round, but I think it was second round actually. But on the last turn of the second round, I moved my ship to my frigate to where your frigate was. And essentially, how this works is the Voidborn will do one damage per Voidborn in that sector, right? To whatever ship. And that gets decided by the player whose frigate is the closest. Ties going to the person that's in first position, right? So I stole the first position on the second round, right at the end of the round, and then moved my frigate into the same position as yours with my last action, so you couldn't leave that spot now, right?
Yep.
So all the locations were tie-break locations going to me being the first player, right? And then I just nuked every one of your ships that you had a higher influence
It
was.
was
And
very
that's where I
frustrating.
tried to, because you were like already three up on the red. And I was like, see you later, red. Like, I'm not even moving up once. And I just like, every red ship got like max damage that I could in those spots. And then even to certain degrees, like some ships I just removed off completely, not from red, but from other colors.
Yeah.
And then yes, with the rift thing when we jumped and everything, it changed it all up, and I could no longer do the damage. But yeah, it was that was one of the things that it was like, yeah, super selfish when in there doing that. But yeah, it's so interesting because like up until that point, I felt like I was accomplishing so much, right? And then we warp jumped, uh, and then I was on the defenses to stop you from doing the exact same thing to me
Yeah.
back, right?
Yeah.
So I had to destroy some of the Voidborn ships, and what I was doing a lot was throwing up a bunch of shields. One of my player board actions was doing it, and then trying to do that and block that way,
Yeah.
which works for a turn. But at least it seems like it's easier to get multiple shields out on one turn than it is to destroy multiple Voidborn, right?
Fair. Yeah.
So
I mean, depending on the upgrades you have and the
exactly,
abilities, right?
yeah.
It's nice. You've got two separate asynchronous mats, I guess. Like,
Hmm.
so you got your crew mat that gives, your captain a bunch of special powers and gives you a unique ability. Yours was that you could move your frigate to any spot on the board, which was crazy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and then your frigate board too has different stuff on it than everyone else's frigate board. So yeah, it's cool. So I one of my special objectives was to get 4 upgrades on my frigate. Well, by the end of the game, like my frigate was pretty good. So when I was taking actions with it, I got a lot of extra stuff, whether I was attacking or landing on planets.
Yeah.
But I had limited movement, so even though I wanted to take out a bunch of Voidborn on the other side, I physically couldn't get there with my one ship that actually dealt damage.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was a tough thing because you were really constrained, which I really like because it was a constraint that you had to work around, right? So and it
Yeah.
wasn't like a randomized constraint. Like if you made a conscious decision to move a frigate here, well, that means the other side of the board is more difficult to get to, right? You could go through the center, but you had to move at least like 3 spots to kind of go through the
Yeah.
center,
And I
right?
only had 2 move.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So when I did that big move, I was on your spot. Well, the next round, you used your captain to move your frigate 2 spots away, and I had already used my captain. So I was like, I can't catch up to you. Because now my cadets can only move the frigate 1 spot, right? And like I could have moved the frigate, but I wasn't sure if I'd be able to A, lead that round, and then, which I think you may have won that round too for being in the lead and taking the first place from
Yeah,
me
we went
again.
back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like, I don't, but that ended up just changing it enough that you put a bunch of damage on on essentially the arc ships, which are ships that can take 4 damage. They take 3 damage, and then the fourth they get destroyed. So you pretty much max damage on both the yellow and the greens arc ships that I was like, now I have like if anything gets through in that area, I'm losing a multiplier on my ships, or like
Yeah.
on my main scoring points, right? So it really threw things off just by the fact that you were now closer and I couldn't get closer to that spot to decide where the damage went, right?
Well,
So
that was another interesting push and pull that I mean, you kind of touched on it, right? So round one, you focused on getting resources and putting out cards, like upgrade cards and stuff. And I couldn't do that because I was like, I got to get rid of some of the damage that's coming our way.
yeah,
So, because if you don't, you either soak the damage up with ships or that damage is going to go through onto the Revenant. And like I said, Revenant takes too much damage, bad things happen to everybody. So, but the the play there is that you set your board up nicely, but then I was out there blowing up ships, which moved me up on the tactics track, which meant that I was in the lead. And then I got to choose where the damage went for most of the board that round.
yeah,
And then so then when that flipped, then you're on the defensive. Now you're trying to take out ships or take out the Voidborn to protect your ships. And then I was like, well, I can't really do a lot of damage. So then I was landing on planets and getting a bunch of resources and playing a bunch of cards. So
yeah, and that was really, and that first round too, you were selecting damage on the ships and you were being very, okay, we want to keep everything alive here. So you were really spreading out the damage, being like, a good leader, basically, right?
well,
And
also I didn't
immediately,
know
yeah,
houses to bet on yet. You know what I
It's
mean?
because it was early, right? So we
Yeah,
hadn't
yeah,
with any movements with just small movements, right? So it would have been like, well, I might move up on that track. So do I really want to tank that thing right away, right?
exactly. Yeah. So it
But by
wasn't
round two, you
totally
have,
altruistic.
yeah, by round two, you get a bit more information. And yeah, that's when I jumped in. It was like, bam, 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 blow all
Yeah.
these guys up. But then it's so funny because like later on, you're looking for a ship and you're going, oh, I need a, battle cruiser in this color. Oh no, I destroyed that.
Yeah.
So that doesn't exist anymore, right? Oh, I need a landing ship in this color. Oh, I destroyed that too? Yeah, yeah, of course I did. And so you really limit your options on what you could do, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was cool. That was a really neat feeling to try and figure that out.
Because another neat part of the game is so you take an action and then you get a bonus action, and the bonus actions are the same, I think, for all the boards. And one of them is to play a card, like play one of your cards, because you need to take an action in order to play a card. But if the house symbol on your card matches the house symbol of the action you took that round, you can either get a discount on that card or you can play another card with that one
Yeah.
bonus action. So you're trying to find like those house ships and take an action with one of those house ships. And then, yeah, by the end of the game, you're like, man, there's none
Yeah.
left.
Yeah, yeah, and I love that. That aspect was awesome because then, like, you're looking at the planet. Oh, I want to land on this planet. I need to land on this planet this turn for these resources or whatever the action is. Oh, and then if I use this ship or if I can match the ship to this color on this card, I can play this card and I can play this. And then you look and the ship's across the board, and there's no way you're getting it to that planet. You're like, okay, well, okay, rethought. What can I
Yep.
go? What's more important, using that ship or going to that plant, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, this
It,
game is great. It's a lot of fun. Um, it's very memorable. I would say this would be a really neat one. It took forever to
oh,
play.
yeah. Took us 4.5
Uh,
hours.
yeah, I wonder.
That
I,
is
I I
us,
wonder about
but
like multiple players. Well, it'd be
yeah,
cool, but like, would it
true.
be 8 hour game then? I don't know.
It
Yeah.
does give a lot of Voidfall vibes,
Mhm.
including that, you have limited actions in the round, so you kind of have to plan out what you're doing.
Yeah.
But then again, spaces get blocked, and so you plan, and then you comes back to your turn, and you have to replan based on the new board state, right?
Yeah. And if you make a mistake early on, you have the potential to feel that later on as well, right?
Yeah,
Maybe not as bad as Food Chain Magnate, but definitely you
true.
want to make the right decisions, right? So,
So,
um,
final thoughts?
oh, I loved it. I thought it was great. I can't wait to play this again, and maybe do a little better this time. But yeah, yeah, no, really excited to play this one again.
Yeah, I loved it too. I played it once solo. It was very hard to learn from the rule book and learn the solo at the same time. But, I think after a couple of plays now, I think I've got it down pretty well. It has a lot of those Voidborn vibes, or sorry, Voidfall vibes, even though it wasn't designed by Nigel Buckle and David Turtzi, but Alan Kirkby did a great job, I think, making it feel like a part of that universe. So top marks from me. And that wraps up another episode of the Current Plays podcast. Check us out next week on YouTube or your favorite podcast provider. But until then, good gaming and good night.
Good night, folks.